meeting of the Fitchburg Board of Public Works for December 5th, 2022, held here in City Hall in the Francis Huntley Cooper Council Chambers. Tonight attending board members, Mr. Wheeler, myself, Michael Granetsky, Director of Public Works, Mr. Bill Balke, and we have no one, I don't believe we have anyone called in tonight to speak on non-agenda items. Okay. So our first order of business is approval of the minutes from the November 21st. Do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll move approval.
Moved by Wheeler, second by Granetsky.
Second.
All right, I jumped the gun. Sorry, Michael. Any questions, changes, additions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of the approval of the November 21st Board of Public Works and meeting minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next is the report from the department head, Mr. Bill Balke.
All right, thank you. I've been busily working on my memoirs of transition to hand off to the next director of public works.
About that thick?
It's getting there. It's several pages. And so that the next director can just take that and have everything that they need to know about things that have been going on in Fitchburg. So we did interview 5 candidates for the director's position. I was not part of the interview process, but they do have a very strong candidate that I think they are in the process of extending an offer to. So hopefully there's acceptance there, and we'll have that new person here before the end of the year or the beginning of next year. We are interviewing also tomorrow or Wednesday for the transportation position that we have open. There's a candidate there that's a good candidate that we feel that hopefully will work out for us too. So we've got some leads on that. That just leaves another traffic or transportation position open and a position for the engineering technician as well as the assistant director of public works. The technician position, we had an offer extended to a candidate, and they rescinded their acceptance of it. So they found something better to do, and we're back to searching for a new candidate for that. The Lacey Road project that we have out there at the intersection of Seminole and Lacey Road, as well as all of Lacey Road, will be going out for bid the early part of January. So we're on track to do that. We're working on the right-of-way acquisition for the project. There's a couple of parcels that we're still working on acquiring, and should have those wrapped up before we award the bids for that project. Sain Road, we've got some public informational meetings coming up. There will be one in January on the 12th. I can't remember. It's in January. I'll get that date. That's a couple days before I leave or the day before I leave, so it must be the 12th. They're for Sain Road. That one, we're looking at some alternatives for the hazard the hazard safety grant that we have for that one. There's a couple of intersection improvements that as we were refining the details of that one, found that it would cause some problems. So we did some realignments and things like that, and we've come up with some better alternatives for that project, and we're going to have a hearing on that on January 12th. And then we're going out for an RFP for Fitchburg Road reconstruction. That should happen in 2024. So we are going out for the design work on that project to move that one forward. That would be an urban reconstruction between Lacey Road and the Nesbitt Roundabout, as well as including a trail along the path extension along the east side of the road and under the Highway 14 bridge or Highway 151 bridge or whatever that highway is over there, 18. So that one is underway or will be, so look forward to getting a consultant on board with that one.
Are we going to do public hearings on that one?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's part of the scoping of the project that we will be holding informational meetings on that and as the design goes forward. We got our bridge maintenance inspections completed this year for all of our bridges. They're in good shape. One of the bridges from the town of Madison that we inherited has some erosion on the abutment. So we are going out for consulting services on that. They'll do some geotechnical to figure out, the stabilization of the soils and then make some recommendations on how to prevent the erosion of the abutments that are occurring out there. So that's an unforeseen project, but we do have funding available from the sale of the town hall to the city of Madison. That is kind of our contingency fund for things that pop up that we weren't aware of. And so there's funding available to complete that project for next year. But get the consulting done, out for bid, and then the construction of the repair this summer, possibly. Subdivisions, we've got the Fahey Fields under construction for the new apartments that are going on out there right now. And the Fitchburg Townhomes is going to be starting their construction, which is the extension of Notre Dame from Lacey South. That one is, we've got the materials and everything out there. We're going to start grading this week. Everything else is pretty much wrapped up for the season, and we're moving forward.
Questions for Bill?
More of a comment. I'm glad we're going to have a transportation engineer pretty soon,
Hopefully.
because I am getting some inquiries. I think we already talked about it with traffic signals.
Sure.
And I know there's information if a neighborhood wants a stop sign or whatever, there's a process for that, but we don't have anything for traffic signals, correct? Any information that we could put out?
Traffic signals are pretty significant investment and require warrants to be met for the installation of those, and that's, a nationwide standard that we have and uphold. So we look through the conditions that those would meet. If they meet them, we would go through a programming exercise to program that into the budget. And if they do not, we could make recommendations for something that's not as significant as a traffic signal, to try to enhance the safety out there.
So it's a lot easier to get a traffic hump or a speed bump or whatever than to get a traffic signal.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, I would add, since I've been on the board, that's been our rationale. People, I want a light here or this or that, and we've always said, no, we designed to meet the warrants is what we're going to do, because as soon as you start making exceptions, then you get weird things, unworkable, and the speed bumps or things like that seem to, we can get those done, but the warrants are following the warrants required for these things is a good way to go.
Yeah, just for traffic signals, especially as from a liability standpoint, these are tried and true warrants that are throughout the country. And when you start to vary from there, lawyers pick up on that and ask you, why did you do this? And it really opens up the city to liabilities as to if they're not warranted.
Bill, one question for the Fitch-Rona rebuild. Do we have a cost sharing with the town of Madison or the town of Verona? Mm-hmm. They did agree. Okay.
They, in principle, they have agreed to talk to us. They cannot afford the full grant amount, but we are going forward to negotiate a payment plan, I guess you would say, so that we can still get their participation and be able to fund their level.
Yeah, it's in bad shape. There's no. Just a question about that. I don't think there's anything we can do. We rebuild it. I believe we still have the flooding. We'll still have the flooding issue underneath. I don't know as if there's much we can do about that. Except a pump, to move it out of there.
You're talking about down by
Under
the
151, just down below Bavarian Sausage,
sure.
there, where it floods down there.
Yeah,
Done it in a while, the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's dried out down there a little bit, so that's helped out. We do have a study ongoing right now, and it's funded through a federal grant through the EPA that we're working on a permitting process to pretty much open up the downstream channel to be able to flow some more water through there. The reason that it holds the water there under the highway is due to the backflow of preventing the water from getting out of the lake fast enough. And we're going through the permitting process and working with the owners and different jurisdictions. We got the DNR, the Dane County involved, as well as the town of Verona in that area. So we are going forward with we do have money available to improve that situation. It won't eliminate it totally, but it will reduce the frequency of it where it doesn't occur as often or stay in the roadway as long.
So you're talking about the bigger outlet on Goose Lake?
Correct.
Okay.
And we do have, as part of the Fitchburg project, some larger pipes that will get the water underneath Fitchburg and into Goose Lake faster. So that's going to be part of that project.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Any other questions for Bill?
Yeah, kind of along that same lines. Do you know offhand if we're going to need to involve DOT because of the underpass under 151? Or are they going to be consulted as part of the design and any of that?
Yes, they will, because there's two structures that will be impacting as we put the path through there. We have contacts with them, so we know we've received their verbal approval on it already and what to design and how to design it.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll be making impacts to those.
Cool.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. Next on our agenda, we have the review of the utility PCard purchases and checks. So I'll open up to board members for questions for Bill.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Just looking at this, it looks like on the first set of bills for August 9th through September 6th, that ends on August 18th, and there's 2 blank pages in the packet. Just a note if you can send those out so we can review it offline.
All right.
Bill, I had one question. If you put it on here, I'm a controls engineer, so I'm going to ask. Sorry. It's page 7 of 64 in the packet. It's 9922, and it's $1,126.54. Or no, I'm sorry. It's $5,332.89 to SJE Rhombus, transducer and programming. Is that a transducer on our water system, a flow transducer? Do you know what's that for? Is that a sewage system?
No, it's for our water system, and it was a transducer for our wells that had to be reprogrammed and replaced.
Okay, thank you.
I can't remember which one it was, if it was 5 or 11,
Okay,
one of those wells.
sounds good. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to our agenda. 6 Alpha, we have ordinance 2022 0-41, creating Chapter 64, Article 3 of Fitchburg General Code of Ordinances relative to wireless telecommunication facilities in the right-of-way. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Gronetsky, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Wheeler. So as I read this, the FCC essentially put this in motion and trying to facilitate better wireless communication in high-density areas. And as I read it, I guess I'm paraphrasing, but they gave them carte blanche to be in our road right-of-way for their facilities, antennas, whether they want to put them on our poles, things like that. And so we are setting up our own ordinances so we have control of the process. Is that anywhere close?
Correct. Yeah, as you had summarized correctly, that the small cell wireless would like to be able to put their facilities on city poles and additional larger poles within the right-of-way, as other utilities have the rights to install utilities in right-of-way. So as part of that, this is a league-tested ordinance that you have in your packet, and it does support what the city's needs and requirements are for installation of those facilities in the right-of-way. It also sets up a fee structure that is compliant with the federal requirements. Essentially what was happening is some municipalities were putting restrictions in place that were very strict, not allowing those facilities to go in or requiring fees or rents to be paid that were in excess of what was allowed with other municipalities or other utilities. So this ordinance came into effect, or the law came into effect to regulate that, and the city is responding with our ordinance, which gives us some responsibilities and rights to be able to regulate it, but not to an extreme.
Questions, Michael, Jim?
Nothing?
I'll just add that, this Article 3 added sections 151 through 167. Two questions for you. Did we find this from another city? It's a pretty big document. What did you use for the guide to come up with this? You guys just dug in and...
No, the League of Municipalities has been following this for years, and they helped craft a model ordinance for municipalities to implement. And we took that and made a few slight modifications to it for our community.
Okay, excellent. And a second question, and I hope you're not going to say it's the Director of Public Works, who's going to be whose responsibility will this fall on, when these requests come in? They have to come through the engineering department. Or do you have in your mind who, assuming a fully staffed Public Works, management, who would be taking that in the future? And again, it might not be your decision.
Sure. Currently, I would say it would fall under the transportation position. That one would be regulating our permits. So as part of that is a permit that we would have regulated by that position.
Excellent. Okay. All right, thank you I appreciate us getting ahead of this, and when these aren't taken care of, then we get calls from, you're anti-business or you're anti, this thing, and so having good ordinances in place, we appreciate that. Any other questions? We'll call the vote. All in favor of ordinance 2022 O-41 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, resolution R 22222, approving revised fourth edition to the agreement for subdivision improvements in the plat of Terra Vesa. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Moved by Wheeler. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Granetsky. This, as I read it, I believe it's to be consistent with with some work that can be delayed, that we prefer not to, or they would prefer not to do it this time, whether it's a terrace or concrete, because it would be destroyed by future construction, and that this would give them the ability to, it would be consistent with other delays in this amendment or in this subdivision.
Sure. I'll give you a summary of this. The Terra Vesa plat originally had some construction where you would have concrete terraces installed around some of the development areas. And some of the lots have not been developed as of yet. And the original agreement had the developer install those by a certain date. And we amended that agreement to allow some of the outlots to be deferred due to the construction going in that would destroy those sidewalks, and it didn't make sense to put it in and then have the contractors come in and tear them up. So yes, this amendment does exempt lot 17, which is the Riversong development. It's out there. They're moving forward this year, and so it does exempt that. And the amendment also allows some of the work that hasn't been done as part of the warranty work that we have an agreement with the contractor and developer that they have to do an inspection of our storm sewer. That was not completed this year in the timeline. So we are extending that deadline as well to allow the work to be done and then start the warranty work or the warranty clock again next year. So there's two parts to it. We're exempting the one outlot for the sidewalk, and then extending the warranty period for the storm sewer work that was under warranty.
Thank you for the excellent explanation, Bill. Questions?
Is the extension of the warranty a one-time thing for this specific thing, or is this something that we need to look at moving forward?
No, it should be a one-time. It's just extending the date, the completion date in which it would needed to be completed.
All right. Then we'll call the vote. All in favor of resolution R 222-22, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, 6 Charlie, resolution R 220-22, accepting subdivision improvements in outlot 15 of 9 Springs, the Limerick development. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Gronetsky, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Wheeler. I see that C Engineering has conditionally approved this, and are there any loose ends here that we should know about, or?
Nope, everything's been done and completed to specifications, and we're just waiting on, I think we're just waiting on some as-built drawings, but it's done.
So that's the term in there, conditionally approved. There is a little more, I guess is what I'm saying. You know, when you say you've conditionally approved it, there is a small loose end yet on it.
Correct. They have the 1-year warranty as well, so, you know, any work that needs to be done within a year will be going back to them to complete it.
Okay, very good. Jim?
No questions.
Questions on this one? Call the vote. All in favor of resolution R 220-22, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Next resolution, 6 Delta, resolution R 221-22, adopting subdivision improvements in the plat of second addition to Terra Vesa. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Wheeler, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Gronetsky. Anything significant about this one?
Nope, it's just the warranty work. And
Okay, all right. And they got everything completed the year before, or this bad weather, or you're able to inspect it adequately for them? Okay. Good. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of resolutions R 221-22, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, 6 Echo Resolution R 219-22, approving corrosion investigation and rehabilitation services for wells 4 and 10. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Gronetsky, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Wheeler. Okay. So as you guys remember, these two were damaged, biological contamination or damage of the casing, and we are looking at hiring a consulting firm to give us, develop a plan to assess or to prevent this in the future. Which would it be? Or is it a little of both?
It's a little of both. With well 10, we've had this condition, known about it for about a dozen years now, and we hired this company previously to come in and do the assessment and then make recommendations on some prevention action that we would be taking to reduce the amount of corrosion that occurs with the material that's in the ground. Since it's been 10 years, we want to, look at it again and see, are the protection methods that they put in place 10 years ago still adequate, or is this something that we need to revise? We have found that in well 4, there is a small amount of the biological in there that it could cause a big problem in the future. And right now, because it is a small problem, we want to do some further assessment on it and make sure that what we're doing is adequate, that we're not wearing out our equipment earlier than needed, and that's primarily the reason behind this one.
I see, I think he's a former city employee, Andy Jock.
Correct.
Didn't he used to work for us? Was he in the water department?
He was.
Yeah, that's what I recall when he was here. good guy. I spoke with basically a water system, retired water system engineer out in California when I was visiting, with a lot of experience, and I indicated him the problem we were having, and he knew right away about that. He said, no, this is a common problem, and I asked him, I said, well, how do you deal with it? Because I don't think I can put chlorine down a well into the aquifer. And he seemed to indicate, no, they've had success doing that with a low concentration. I'd be interested to see what they come up with. I don't know if it's the type of thing that you could put something down to the bottom of the casing, like a balloon type thing, and inflate it, and then charge put a large amount of chlorine in there to kill something and pump it out. I'll be interested what they come up with. But I was surprised when he said, no, you can put a low concentration down, and he seemed to indicate that it was effective. He had seen this used in Australia and California and places. So
Right.
when I told him because what happened to us, we were all pretty surprised. And he said, no, I've run into it a lot over my career. So I think we're just fortunate here, that we haven't had that problem.
Right.
So any other questions for, I think, speak for the board that we do not, we would like to get this nipped in the bud and not have to deal with this again. And, Bill promised us this was coming, we were going to look at a plan. Misty, did you have a comment on this? No? Okay.
Next one.
All right, next one. All right, that's what I figured. All right, all in favor of Resolution R 21922 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, 6 Foxtrot, Resolution R 21522, creation of a combined Badger and Terravessa lift station rate. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Grunetsky, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Wheeler. So I'll note, we have two areas in the city served by lift stations. One we have inherited here with the consolidation with the town of Madison, and the Terravessa area that was designed with this. And so we're creating a rate to cover both the O&M and future replacement costs. Is that correct? Okay. Misty, would you like to speak on this?
Sure. So as you mentioned, the city is generally served by gravity sewer, but there are the one existing area in relatively recent Fitchburg history in the Terravessa area that needed a lift station. And at that point, the council and the Board of Public Works made the policy decision that there should be a separate additional charge for those properties that were getting served by the lift station, so that those properties are the ones that are paying for those additional costs and not spread across all of the property or owners within the city. So now we have this other lift station that's coming into us. The agreement with the city of Madison has already been approved by council that says what our share of this overall lift station is. Only a portion of the properties benefiting from that lift station are Fitchburg. The rest of them are Madison. So that's why we only have to pay for a portion of the maintenance and future replacement costs for that particular lift station. So staff looked to see what that separate billable code rate should be for a lift station, and we have 3 policy decisions that are kind of built into this. First policy decision is, should we have a separate billable code for properties that are benefiting from a lift station? We assumed, because we have that for Terravessa, that we would want to do that also for the town of Madison one. The second policy decision is, should we have a combined rate, or should we have a separate rate for Terravessa versus the Badger lift station? Staff is recommending that we have a combined rate. It does give us a little bit of flexibility as emergencies happen and things happen between the two. Both lift stations are, so like the Terravessa lift station is larger, but it serves a larger population, so there's more people to spread that cost over, where Badger is smaller, but it has fewer people. So the rates work out to be pretty comparable. The biggest reason why we're recommending a combined rate, though, is for the ease of billing, and it's a lot easier to explain to our customers why there's the additional charge if it's the exact same. So that's the second piece. And then the third piece is the capital costs. So when we established the special rate for the Terravessa lift station, it only included the O&M, or the operating and maintenance costs at the time. Thought being that when the time comes for capital, we would then increase the rate and pay for it at that point and have to borrow money to pay for it. The city, over our recent capital improvement plans, has kind of shifted to doing more of a replacement fund style. So we will charge over the useful life of the existing equipment instead. We will build up the cash reserves for it, invest that money, earn some interest on it, and then when the capital replacement needs to happen, we will have the cash available. So we won't have to borrow for it, which saves the ratepayers from that interest cost, and the cash will be available because it will already have been built up. And I'll say this strategy is very similar to what we do for the water impact fees that I know you're familiar with. So we're collecting that up front, knowing that we need to spend it. So staff is recommending that we do include capital. We think over time it lowers your rates because you're investing that money rather than paying interest money on borrowed money. It also allows us more flexibility in case of emergencies and things like that that need to happen. Obviously, would still go through the Board of Public Works and Council for the actual purchases, but at least that funding source would be available for everyone. And it should reduce kind of the rate fluctuations, so rather than having a low rate and then jumping up a lot when that capital cost comes on, have relatively gradual increases and be able to keep it more stable than what you would otherwise. So to calculate that capital amount, staff went through the exercise of determining all the different pieces that are within a lift station, a useful life, an estimated cost, and then it became a math exercise similar to the capital replacement funds in our CIP.
Thank you, Misty. Oh, excellent explanation. Board questions?
There's a lot there.
There is.
So on the combined rate for the Badger lift and Terra Vesa, how different are they going? How different would they be if they were separate? Are we talking a handful of dollars?
I actually don't know that answer. I can get back to you.
The logic in my head is that if we wanted to segregate Terra Vesa from the rest of Fitchburg because they were being serviced by this well, that same logic would apply to Badger Lift because they're being serviced by equipment that no other part of Fitchburg is. So that would be my argument to keep those two at separate rates. Mm-hmm. I understand the ease of billing. Keeping administrative costs down is always a win. Mm-hmm. But if we're fairly far off, I would think that would be something that we would want to look at keeping separate.
My understanding is that they were comparable. I couldn't tell you the exact dollar amounts. I can get that number from the team, but they were in the same ballpark for sure.
Okay, and I don't know if that's going to be good enough for the other board members.
Bill, question, am I correct? The town of Madison area, that capital replacement project will be coming much sooner than the Terra Vesa. It's an aged, existing station that's been there. Terra Vesa is pretty new, so we probably expect the next 5 years. I think that's probably going to need to be replaced down there.
Yeah, and the city of Madison has let us know that within the next 2 years, they're planning, you're going to start design next year, construction in 2024, and then we'll be billed in 2025 for the capital replacement. But given that there's only, I think it's maybe 16% of the total cost, there's a percentage of usage that it's pretty low. As in comparison. So it's not, that they're planning a $700,000 lift station. We would only get, 10, 16%, 18%. I can't remember the number. There's a number out there. It's low.
Michael has heard me on my soapbox about this. I never wanted any Fitchburg development, that couldn't be gravity fed. And originally Terra Vesa, we thought it was going to be gravity fed, that we proved, and then as it got into it, it was going to be substantially, millions of dollars more to dig through an escarpment or something, and so we came with the lift station, and I accepted that. I'm very pleased to see that, I always felt very strongly that the developments fed by that, should be paying those higher costs. And so I'm happy to see this. I think it's the best way to go. And I don't have a problem with the combined rate. I think anything I can do to reduce the burden, the administrative burden on our billing and departments and things, I'm happy to do. I think it outweighs the having a separate rate in my mind. Jim, any thoughts? Okay.
I do have one more. Do we have any other programs in place where we're collecting more money upfront for expedited costs, or I'm sorry, future costs, we'll say it that way?
So the big example in the water utility would be the impact fees. So we are collecting money as development comes in. And I know is it a big tower that's coming through in the relatively near future that's going to be tapping into that source of funds. Okay. We also do it with capital projects now. So we have fleet replacement funds. So we figure out the annualized cost of each of the pieces of equipment that we currently have. We're collecting taxes through the life of that equipment, and then we have cash to pay for that replacement in the future.
I do like that approach. The risk that you run is that something kind of catastrophic happens and you start pulling into all this lockbox type money that's available there. So just as long as we've got good policies and procedures around collecting this and keeping it in that account, I have no doubts that you guys can keep that separate. Thank you.
And I'll say the intention is we'll structure our accounting records to keep track of this money very separate.
Very good.
So it doesn't have the same legal requirements as, say, the impact fees. There's a lot of statutes around impact fees, but we'll treat it very similar from an accounting perspective.
The final question is for the Badger lift and, the maintenance and replacement costs. What would be the alternative to not doing that if we told Madison pound sand? Would they cut off water to us? Would they just have to pay the whole thing?
So at this point, we can't tell them to pound sand because we already signed an agreement that said that we would pay it. So at this point, we're at the point of should the Madison properties pay for it or should all of the ratepayers pay for it?
Thank you.
Of course.
More discussion. Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of resolution R 21522, creation of combined Badger and Terra Vesta lift station rate, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Misty, and thank you for enlightening us on this, and thank you for pushing this through. I wanted to see this for a while. Okay, announcements. Our next Board of Public Works will be December 19th, 2022. Mr. Balke, will that be your last meeting?
No, I'll be here in January.
Okay, we'll be here in January. All right, sounds good. We won't have to sing at that meeting. All right. And our first meeting in January is to be determined. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Gronetsky. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Will. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.